My name is George Tex Marshall, and I work in Nova Scotia for the First Nations schools and communities in sport and recreation. So we're housed here at Kina'matnewey, member to a First Nation, and we service 12 of the 13 First Nation communities in Nova Scotia. The communities that have their own schools that are operational, we serve them, but we also serve the communities in sport and rec. We incorporate culture into different programming that we have. For example, we just finished a new initiative that we have in one of our schools called the Mi'kmaq Marathon Club. So the club is based on student participants, and there's 3 elements to it. There's a physical activity. There's also a little bit of technology, but there's also engaging in the culture, our Mi'kmaq culture, and engaging with elders in the community. So what the students do is they commit to, over a period of time, whether it be 6 weeks or 10 weeks, they do the distance of a marathon, 26 miles, 265 yards, or whatever the exact yardage is. So that could be over 1 mile per day or 1 mile per week. They design the length of the program themselves. So that's the physical activity part. They engage the technology where they use interactive maps such as Google Maps to map out marathons, and I'd encourage them to use the Boston Marathon, for example. Through using satellite imagery in Google Maps, the kids are able to map out the distance that they would run if they were running the Boston Marathon over the period of time. So you can actually go to the starting point in Hopkinton, Massachusetts, and you can gauge and map out the whole Boston Marathon track right down to Boylston Street where the finish line is. So the students are able to visualize and conceptualize that they would have actually ran the distance of the Boston Marathon. How they include culture is they engage elders in their communities. So the students would go to see the elders, and they would ask them a question about the language, the culture, significant pieces of the community. So in return for the information, they do nice deeds for the elders where they tidy up for them, take out the garbage, even do the dishes, or help them out with anything around the house. So they're engaging with the elders, they're learning about the culture. Some questions can be on language. So this is a program that we've implemented for our schools that are a club based on the club basis. So it's something new that we started to engage culture and language. Well, we do a series of events throughout the school calendar year, sports events for all of the schools, all of our First Nation schools. So we take sports like contemporary sports like basketball, volleyball, and we include some fun ones like dodgeball. We also have ice hockey, lacrosse, soccer, badminton, and track and field championships at the end of the year. So basically what we do is we get students from all of our schools, we bring them together, and we mash them together in teams. So it eliminates any school rivalries and any serious competition. It's more of a fun-based activity while learning and engaging in the contemporary sports. So we do these calendar events throughout the year at the elementary, middle school, and high school level. I think that's very successful where the students learn about the sports and trying the sports. They also learn about camaraderie, friendship, really good sportsmanship where there's no school rivalries. And they also learn about the kids in the other communities, which they normally don't get a chance to get involved in. So I think that would be one of our most successful programs that we have within our school systems. And through those events, what we've made an attempt to do is engage our language in when we have announcements. We also say the announcements in Mi'kmaq in English, just to put that part of it in there too, so that the language is utilized. So participation, for one, I mean, our numbers are steady, where we have a really good high turnout rate for all of the events throughout the calendar year. Plus the progression, the natural evolution towards high performance sport. So the school calendar and the school sport, which is a little bit less competitive, is an evolution towards high performance sport, where the students in the schools get involved in higher competition leagues through the Provincial Athletic Federation. So the evolution of skill development is always progressing, and they're getting more and more skilled in the sports, so in the more competitive environment. So that's a measure of success, along with the participation numbers are always growing and well attended. So I think that our students are becoming a lot more physically active, and they're seeing sport and physical activity as a lifelong activity. I think that's one of the most important things. We started this programming about 12 years ago, and when we started, a lot of our females, for example, were not engaged, not involved in a lot of our school and other high-level sports. Now they're fully engaged. We have pretty much an equal number of females as we do males in our activities, which is also a tremendous measure of success. So our young girls are learning now that there's more to life than just having babies. That, they can engage sport, leadership as a lifelong activity, and not just something that's just a one-off. Their self-esteem is enhanced greatly. Again, the physical activity, leaning towards healthy eating now. We have a policy of no junk food in our schools, so that was a tremendous milestone, along with the daily activity. Aside from phys ed classes, extracurricular activities, and the events we have, the students exercise every day in the school, so that's also a tremendous impact that we've had in our communities and schools too. So it's definitely a means of prevention. It's education. It's showing that there's always a better life, and being in a monotonous situation of being in our communities where there's no hope, there's no opportunity, there's no fulfillment of dreams. There's definitely doors that are opening. We're seeing a lot more of our students that graduate from high school now going on to university, and not only local universities in other cities. So there's definitely a realm of possibility that doors have opened. So through self-esteem and through leading a healthy lifestyle. So I know that the word inclusion is used a lot, and that's a great part of Indigenous education. And the way I was raised by elders in my community, my family. And, traditional teaching is basically through storytelling. So I think we need to utilize that sort of philosophies in contemporary education. Because when I went to see one of my elders, one of my aunties or my uncles, and I asked them a question, they'd never give me a direct answer. They'd tell me a story. And sometimes I would be able to decipher what they were saying in a few minutes. Sometimes it took months or years to figure out what they were saying. Eventually there was a meaning, but it's part of learning, it's a part of education. So we need to grasp that traditional model a little bit more and include it into the contemporary model of teaching, telling stories. You can capture a student's imagination by telling them a story. But if you decipher the curriculum as dictated by the province of education, or the education department within the province, if you decipher the curriculum, then you're not going to engage them most of the time. They'll be bored, they'll tune out, they'll think about Fortnite or other games that they play. But if you tell them a story, and you tell them a story that's relevant to who they are, you can engage them, and they will want to learn more. So we need to follow other cultures in the world. For example, I know in China that physical activity and healthy eating are incorporated into their schools in China. It's a priority, and we're just beginning to scratch the surface in that area. We need to have that as a priority. I mean, we can say that math and science and literature are all important, which they are. I wouldn't dispute their importance. But when we have such great health issues and health problems, I believe it was President Bill Clinton of the United States who was the first one to say that we are the first generation that's likely to outlive our children. And when I think about that statement, and it is true, and according to Health Canada statistics, it is true, that scares the hell out of me. We need to teach our children a more holistic, inclusive approach to education, and to have it as not to just have math, science, and literature as priorities, but also healthy eating, also physical activity, making it a priority. Because when we have kids that end up in the hospital at the age of 12 or 14, hooked up to machines because their blood glucose levels skyrocket or their blood pressure skyrockets, there's no cardiologist, there's no physician or pediatrician that will say to that kid, oh, you need to do more math so you can get better. What they do say, in fact, is you need to exercise and you need healthy, and that's how you're going to survive. That's why it needs to be a priority just as much as the other ones are. And that's inclusion. That's a holistic model of education, and we need to grasp more. So that's my vision over the next 10 years, it becoming more of a priority. I think that basically the whole system of educators that we have in our communities and our schools, everyone has to buy into that concept, and everyone has to make it a priority. I mean, it's easy to deliver a program and say to the schools and the teachers and the principals, administrators, say to them, we need to deliver a physical activity program to the kids. We need to do healthy eating. But if they don't make it a priority, then it's not going to happen. They have to conceptualize that this is the means that we're going to survive, but not only survive, live healthy, so that our children, that we don't outlive them, that they're here long after we're here.